Okay. Okay. So recording is in progress currently. So welcome. This is a Room to Thrive information session. I'm Cheryl, and I have some little formal presentation slides to share with you. Mostly to keep myself on track, honestly, because I get excited and then I ramble for long periods of time. So this will help me stay on track. So I'm going to start sharing those, but I want you to know that I will monitor the chat. So first I'll start by presenting these official slides that I've created in the wonderful program called Canva, which I love. It's really fun for making graphics. And then, but if you have questions along the way as I'm presenting, just throw them in the chat. There'll be a couple of times where I'll ask you, like, does anyone want to share this or that? And I'll stop sharing my screen. And then at the end, I'll have more time for general questions, about the program or just about anything. So that's our agenda for the next hour. So you are in the right place if you have a rheumatic disease, which it's kind of a vague term. Rheumatology is a confusing term in general, but a rheumatic disease umbrella includes all of these inflammatory forms of arthritis or autoimmune/autoinflammatory forms of arthritis, like rheumatoid arthritis, psoriatic, ankylosing spondylitis, or lupus. And if you maybe are feeling a bit confused or overwhelmed how to manage everything and how to cope with the stress, or maybe feeling a little bit like you've been left on your own to figure out how to adjust. This picture might be a dramatization over here, but it might also be familiar. Depends. I think it's more metaphorical for me, but I'll just quickly introduce myself and tell you why I created this program. And then I already kind of reviewed this, and then give you some details and questions and answers. So I have had rheumatoid arthritis myself for 19 years. And I got my master's in occupational therapy back in 2012. So about 9 years after my diagnosis. And does that make sense? Yeah, because it's 2022. Okay. I'm always second guessing my math. And then I'm also a mom, and I created Arthritis Life and these programs like Room to Thrive, because I just saw that there was a big gap, a big need for more, education and support for patients that, especially when I went to occupational therapy school, I was like, wait, why am I learning all these things now? Like these should have been, these are things they shouldn't be like secrets, they should be given to people. So, again, I'm always ahead of myself. So yeah, basically I created this to there's really just two main things it seems like people need over and over again. They need the information, like tools for fatigue, tools for managing the day-to-day. And then we need support and community so we don't feel so, overwhelmed on our own. And so, a lot of times I've noticed everyone feels like they're the only one. Like, it seems like everyone else is coping so well. Like, what's wrong with me? And that's actually one of the best things I think about social media is it's kind of normalized, like a lot of the experiences we have. Right. But, common sources of stress are like the unknowns. That's the biggest one for me. There's like, what is the medicine going to work? How long is it going to take? How do I explain this to friends and family? How is this going to affect my job? Again, I don't need to like tell you this. You've probably lived through this, but, making things that can also make it hard to adjust is, having to learn. It's almost like learning a new language, flare-ups, DMARDs, and a learning curve of just like the job of being a patient, not understanding what your medical team is telling you potentially. The one that really caused me a lot of stress when I tried to like, quote unquote, do my own research was like conflicting information everywhere, which still stresses me out to this day, but I've had to learn, to accept that like, the state of science is just such that sometimes there are just going to be inconclusive areas, right? Just like with COVID, they were like, okay, it's droplets, it's passed by coughing and droplets. Oh wait, no, it's airborne. Oh wait, we learn new information all the time, but it can be stressful, right? And I really want to acknowledge that many of us, have had medical trauma from being either misdiagnosed or not believed, or had like a delay in diagnosis. The average time for getting an autoimmune disease diagnosis is something like 4 years, I believe. So, that's a long time to be in pain and suffering without answers and without the legitimacy that like a diagnosis brings. But what what did I not mention? What have I missed? What are some other things that can cause stress with living with rheumatic disease, either diagnosed or undiagnosed? Yeah, Tiffany. Oh, sorry, you're muted.
I think one of the big things for me is navigating friendships, because I was all up in the activities on a regular basis. And then suddenly I have to keep telling, it's big. And I'm old school. My word is my bond. So if I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it. And I've kind of had that lifestyle with my friends and family and everything. And now I don't care if it's close to the day or the time the event is coming. I have to say, look, I'm sorry, I'm not going to come. And I've never been undependable. And that's frustrating. That's probably one of the biggest frustrations, because it just looks like, well, you were fine yesterday. So why in the world are you suddenly, too tired? And fatigue is getting a bad rap, you see, because you could say, I am having fatigue. People just think, oh, you're just feeling a little tired, but they don't realize fatigue is like a 4-letter word. It is not.
Sorry, I love that. Yeah.
It is not like regular, oh, gee, I'm a little tired. It is a whole nother ball of wax. And that's the hardest part for me.
Yeah, I really relate to that, because it's like there's multiple levels, there's the fear of missing out, like having to miss out on something that you wanted to go to, but and that's like you're missing out individually on that experience, but it's also the social effect of like, you don't want to be seen and perceived as undependable, or quote unquote, one of my, I guess 4-letter words is flaky. I don't want to ever be seen as flaky. I worked so hard to not be flaky, but my disease makes me flaky sometimes. Yeah. I feel you on that. That's huge. Anyone else relate to that? Yeah. Kate.
I was just going to add, having people not believe you or not being able to explain the situation with the right words and terms that other people understand, and then not wondering, is it real? Maybe it's not real. Maybe it's, I feel like I'm going through that swirl all the time.
Yeah. It's so funny. I mean, again, I can just relate to that, living with this for 19 years. And I literally in the last 3 years since I started Arthritis Life, I have a podcast about it. I make videos every single day talking about arthritis, that I have arthritis. And I was talking to my friend who also has arthritis. And I was like, oh, I don't know why I've been so tired lately and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, well, you have rheumatoid arthritis. And I'm like, wait, why did I need you to remind me that? When it's you can logically understand it, but sometimes not emotionally, truly accept it in the moment. Or there's this kind of toxic ableism that's your whole life told you, oh, just push through it. It's not that bad. Other people have it worse, So yeah, I still struggle to this day, but I know that especially if you're within the first couple of years from your diagnosis, it's really typical to be in a little bit of denial, in the sense of or just confused because maybe you got a preliminary diagnosis. Some people will get a diagnosis you have some sort of inflammatory arthritis, but we're not positive what it is. Okay, is that you, Julie? Okay. That's difficult.
So I think I'm lucky because you said the average time of diagnosis is 4 years. It's only been a few months for me. And all my tests came back normal, and and except for this one, and the rheumatologist in my second visit to him said, well, you have inflammatory arthritis, likely RA.
Yeah.
Okay. So when do we decide, yep, this is what it is and this is what it isn't? Or does that matter? So I'm just moving forward as if I do, because I needed to move from the diagnosis phase to the treatment phase because I was going crazy. It was just horrible.
Yeah.
So, and kind of to Kate's point, for me, I have this issue where I'll wake up and of course it's horrible first thing in the morning, but I have a pretty good day. And like in the middle of the day, my husband will ask how you doing. I'm like, it's a pretty good day. But then I get home from work and I'm like, oh, this is terrible. I can't move, And I feel like he's very supportive, so it's not him, but I feel like sometimes it's like that not believed part. You know what I mean? For some people. Or another comment that drives me crazy is, oh yeah, I have arthritis, in my elbow or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, this is different. It's like
it's systemic. Yeah. Well, and I think that the nature of rheumatic diseases and autoimmune diseases is that there's very rarely like a line in the sand that's extremely clear and like that this is your diagnosis. Or I shouldn't say rarely, but it's like abnormal is the normal in a way. And especially the thing I would say to you, Julie, and anyone who's gotten in the early stages is the data is all saying that like the earlier you catch it and treat it, the better. So I think that's why the doctors are like willing to give like a preliminary diagnosis to say like, look, we know that like early treatment is the standard, like the best standard of care. So even if we're not positive until later, like, is this going to emerge to be like psoriatic arthritis or rheumatoid or, like there's always subcategories now, like non-radio, I always get this one wrong, non-radiographic axial spondyloarthritis versus ankylosing spondylitis. Like there's so many, but at the end of the day, just getting some treatment and like getting the inflammation under control initially is like very helpful. But and I think we all grow up with this model, this very like hero's journey model of illness, where it's like, you get sick, you have this dip in function, like you get sick, you feel really bad. And then like every day you slowly get better. Like, like when you get the flu or something, and like chronic illness, like fluctuating dynamic disability and chronic illness is just not like that. Like, and it's frustrating to us, right? To feel like, wait, at 2 p.m. I felt fine. 4 p.m. I felt like death. 7 p.m. I felt fine. Like, how do you explain that to someone? It's hard. It's hard enough to live through it. So even just, I think, stating it out in the open like that, to say, look, I have a really random illness. Like, I don't even understand it myself. I'm trying to do my best to understand it, but like, it does mean that I can't always predict 100%, So yeah, that can be really challenging. Okay. I'm going to go back to my slides. I want to keep talking about this, but the point this already feels like a long time ago, but I was trying to lead to the point that there's all these things that are stressful about it. And actually not one of you actually mentioned the actual pain, which is what a lot of people think, oh, arthritis is just pain, or, oh, the pain must be the worst part about it. But actually all these other things are hard about it, not even to mention the actual pain, like the joint pain. And, there's different kinds of pain. I'll tell you again, even after studying this, being an occupational therapist, I still find the concept of an aggregate 1 to 10, like just general pain scale for me personally, like completely unhelpful. Like, but I can rate my pain on a scale of 1 to 10 in the subcategories of pain. So I might be like at a 5 on sharp pain, a 2 on stabbing pain, a 2 on dull pain, maybe a 8 on achy. Do you know what I mean? Like I could rate them within the subcategories of pain, but just saying pain in general is like a very elusive concept. But there are patterns in rheumatoid arthritis and the other rheumatic diseases that they're usually the pain is worse in the morning and the stiffness is worse in the morning, getting slowly better throughout the day and worsening with like inactivity. And then there's fatigue, which doesn't necessarily have a predictable pattern. That is, a lack of energy that is not remediated by sleep, although it can be slightly less intense if we do sleep well, right? But it's fatigue is definitely like, someone already pointed out, it's way beyond just normal sleepiness. Like Tiffany pointed that out. And then there's the extra articular, like non-joint symptoms, like heart, lungs, eyes, inflammation, which I didn't know. For years, I was going to the eye doctor, not knowing that it was from my rheumatoid arthritis that my eyes were so dry. The eye doctor finally told me, and I was like, and again, and maybe they did tell me in those first few months after being diagnosed, it was just too overwhelming. So, again, I think some of you are already active on social media, so you've heard this message before, but some of you might not have been, and that's okay. If you're not on social media, that's okay. Some people find this through like my website or podcast. And, this is actually about a year ago, I asked on social media for people to just say like, what do you wish people understood? What do you wish other people understood about your illness? And, literally echoing exactly what you all were just saying, but, people either minimize it, think people in someone's life think it's not a big deal. They'll say things like, oh, my knee hurts too, get over it. Or they'll shame you for taking medicines or just otherwise invalidate you. And, having to struggle to pay attention to your own needs while also paying attention to your roles in life, like being a friend and a partner. That was really hard for me at first. I'm like, I want to be the helper. I don't want to ask for help. Right. And that's a skill. We all have to learn how to ask for help. No one is an island, but, and this was someone that I literally could have written this too, it's hard when you can't serve others, or like Tiffany was saying, when you are not able to be there for others in the way that you wanted to. So again, just validating that this is all, we all feel like we're the only ones, but it is a pretty universal experience. Again, there are outliers. Some people, have amazing support, or they go into like remission really quickly on the medications and they feel good. So I'm not saying like everyone's feeling horrible, but it is, pretty common to have a difficult time adjusting. And there's even like studies that show like, like people who have inflammatory arthritis, feel that they have received insufficient information, want to be recognized as more than their disease, being able to use their own resources and re-engage in previously abandoned activities. I just really liked how that was written, because it kind of speaks to what I think is like missing and kind of why I form my program. So this is my little soapbox, but you do deserve better. This may be, again, over dramatic, but I get really excited about my images. And, I created Rheum to Thrive to, again, teach the tools, because the tools are out there. There are, again, it's not like a one size all solution, but there are, evidence-based, recommendations for improving your quality of life, in the areas of like lifestyle stuff, like exercise and nutrition. That's the probably most tangly, confusing area, but there are starting to be some kind of consensusi, and, stress management, sleep interventions. And then also, I basically feel like I'm almost like a tour guide, like when you're like, here, welcome to this new island of like having rheumatic disease. Like I'm kind of simplifying everything for you and helping explain it to you. And then also facilitating a supportive community. So the way that it works, I'm going to get into logistics, is that there are meetings, 2 meetings a month that are about 90 minutes each. And we have a topic of the week that's organized over 6 months. There's like the first month is focusing on the tools for pain and fatigue. The second month is focused on the habits, like that's like the lifestyle stuff I was mentioning. Oh, and I will send you all a PDF of this, by the way, so you don't have to, unless if you're taking notes, you totally can, because that's like how my memory works. Like if I take notes, I'll remember things better, but you just know that I'm going to give you a PDF of this. In the third month, I focus on relationships, friendships, social life. Then we focus on inner world, which is like the tools for managing mental health, stress, and then valued activities and hobbies. So how to still do the things that we love. And, that includes like life hacks and figuring out like what we can still do with this disease. And then the last month is like the first part of the meetings is focused on like executive functions, which is like the part of being a chronic illness patient where we have to like learn how to advocate for ourselves in medical appointments and keep track of our symptoms. And that's a hard one. That's why it's at the end, because it's a tricky one. So that's the first part of each meeting. It's kind of a live, like I call it like a mini lecture, but with questions and answers along the way. So, you can raise your hand and say, well, what about this? What about that? Or people also will raise their hand and share, oh, this also worked for me. Like the sleep one. I remember last time someone was saying that they, this is like a cohort group. So we all go through it in the same time, by the way. So in the group that just finished in September, one of the people was like, oh, I put an alarm, and not just an alarm every night to go to sleep, but I put on an alarm, or sorry, I don't just put an alarm on in the morning to wake up, but I put an alarm on to remind myself to do my like winding down routine and like get off the phone. And I was like, that's such a great idea. Like, so I'm giving you my best tips, but there's always better ideas in the group too, or always more ideas. And then the second half of each meeting is a facilitated group support session, basically support group. I keep changing the order how I say things so the reason I put facilitated in there is because there are like free for all, like lots of kind of free for all support groups, like on, Facebook or other places. And that can be really a great place for like information sharing, but it can be kind of overwhelming. And sometimes without like a person there with some sort of, expertise, it can get a little bit difficult to be like, wait, is this good information or bad? But, or just no one there to kind of help, like maybe guide the conversation. So where we spend some of the time focusing on venting and like legitimizing the pain and suffering that we're all going through, but also focusing on, okay, what's still available to us, So I try to find like a sweet spot in between, like, I don't want it to be toxic positivity where it's like, just think positive, but I also don't want to only focus on like venting, like it's like in the middle, like we have space for both, like focusing on what we can still do and like, like the possibilities that are available in our lives, and to still have a rich and meaningful life, with this, even if we don't want it and we didn't ask for it, we can still say, okay, well, what if this is what I get, how can I still have a meaningful, joyful life? And then we also say, okay, but we can also have a moment of just being like, I can't believe what this person said to me. And like, just, kind of have those moments of like, you deserve better, and like that kind of support. So that's in a nutshell what we do. So it starts in October and then it will end. Okay. I have the next slides that say like, this is the at a glance, what we go through. So that kind of the goal is to take you from this like, state to like, okay, I'm supported, empowered, and like, yes, maybe I still have questions because of the nature of autoimmune illnesses. They're just tricky, but like, I feel more grounded, So this is the kind of agenda. It's a little bit like a little school. I was always like, wanted to be a teacher when I was little. So this is our little curriculum. So we go through in October, the tools for pain and fatigue, and we problem solve a little bit. Then in November, we go over nutrition, exercise, sleep. I will say like, there are other programs that are like deep dive into nutrition, or deep dive, like months on end of nutrition, months on end of exercise. And I'd be happy to like refer you to those if that's something that you would want to do like concurrently or, instead of this, because I try to be really honest about what it is and what it isn't. This is like giving you, it's like an orientation to all the little things that you might need to know, but it's not the deepest dive into any one, if that makes sense. And then December is going to be just in time for the holidays. If you celebrate any holidays in December, is navigating relationships and social life. That can be family gatherings. I will say over the last few years of doing this, family gatherings can be a big source of stress and in living with these kind of illnesses. So focus on like romantic relationships, friendships, family, and work. So that's a lot. That's a big part. And then in January, we're going to focus on inner world and coping skills, mindfulness, acceptance, and commitment therapy, which is one of my favorite modalities or philosophies that I've discovered over living with rheumatoid arthritis. And then cognitive behavior therapy too, which it's kind of like cognitive behavior therapy plus mindfulness is acceptance and commitment therapy in a way. But then we just work on taking the tools from each of these kind of ways of coping and putting them into your own toolbox. Take what works for you, don't take what doesn't work for you. And then in February, this is fun. We do a lot of like show and tell of like, what are the things that you can still do and bring you joy? For me, it's like walking the dog, like reading. Now that's my son and my nephews. They're like much bigger now. Well, he's 8, so not that much bigger, but that's kind of fun. And travel is also part of that. It's like traveling to the Oregon coast, which is like 4 hours south of here. And then March, we'll be concluding with like becoming the CEO of your care team. Now, that's kind of a lofty goal, but the idea is realizing like at least in the American healthcare system, like no one else is usually doing this work for you. Like we, as the chronic illness patients, like have to be the ones staying organized, you know, tracking symptoms, communicating, making sure the right hand knows what the left hand's doing, especially when it comes to these specialty tier medications. If you're on like a biologic, which is like Enbrel, Remicade, Humira, it is a full-time job when you have to start getting on those. I remember so many times being on the phone for hours anyway. And then, you know, and then we have a little celebration at the end. And then I do have a group, like of people who've completed this initial 6-month program who want to keep meeting and just having the support group part, no like formal curriculum, called it like the alumni or the graduates. And so we still meet twice a month as well. So I have a lot of testimonials. I do, again, like I said, try to be like honest. You know, I will tell you like if, you know, I think honestly, people self-select into this who want to be there. So usually, there isn't any like super negative, you know, feedback. The negative feedback is sometimes like that I talk too fast or that I do get off track. I'm like, wait, what was I saying? So kind of like ADD kind of brain sometimes, but you know, the idea is, you know, that to get you out of like spinning your wheels, you know, researching and overthinking, and then the close community is what people like, you know. And this one was from Erin. You know, she didn't necessarily know if she should join a group because she already felt pretty confident, but she really liked the community. And so, okay, I'm going to let you guys ask me questions too. But yeah, the parts that I think have been the most deeply impactful are, you know, the compassion and validation. And the group, I will say that it's like the knowledge is good because, or the educational sessions are good because it kind of is intrinsically empowering, right? It's like, I'll just stop there for a second, but it'd be like, okay, like it's not hopeless. Like, even though it can be overwhelming and sometimes you do everything right and you still get a flare up, at least we can kind of get some semblance of like, okay, here's some things that might work. Maybe these are like things you can try, instead of feeling like it's all nothing helps, you know. So we start on that note, but then at the end, the support sessions are kind of what people really like. So I have a few more slides. Sorry. I just wanted to like give you a break from looking at these giant slides. But okay, so here's a little bit logistics. So right now the schedule for the October through March is that we're going to have a Friday group that is lunchtime on the East Coast, or 12:30 to 2 morning and Pacific time. That's actually my preferred time because my energy is always better in the morning. And then kind of I dip in the afternoon. But on days like today, the second group is the time that we're meeting today. I'll just take a little siesta in the afternoon and like rejuvenate myself. So the second group is the Thursdays, 4 to 5:30 Pacific, 7 to 8:30 New York time. Confusingly, if there is anyone listening from like, there's a couple of people that have been interested in the group from like Asia or Australia. And so the Thursday group is actually Friday morning in Australia. So I'm like, oh shoot, I'll just call it group 2 for them. Group 2, not call it the Thursday group. That's actually like 10 in the morning in like Sydney. So I figured that out. But anyway, and then, you know, I just try to be upfront with pricing. I don't know why there's a lot of programs that are like very like secretive, like I won't tell them how much it costs. And you're like, why? I don't know why. And so, you know, you can have a monthly plan, or you can, for the 6 months, $57 USD, or $292, which is $50 off if you do all 6 months up front. But I do have sliding scale payments or pay what you can options. So I just do that over email. It's just me, and I have one person that helps me named Lauren, who's helps me out like 5 hours or so a week, and she's super helpful. But you know, this is not affiliated with any, it is a company, it's not a nonprofit, but you know, you don't have to like fill out any forms or prove anything. It's just, I don't want money to be like a barrier for anyone. It's just, you know, just kind of valuing, my time and expertise as well, which is why I charge money for the groups. And so a couple FAQs are, aren't support group type programs, just like really depressing and really full of people complaining. And like I mentioned, I did kind of already speak to this, but, first of all, we are going to have heavier days and lighter days. There's days where people will bring up stuff that's really, really challenging, and other days where we'll be like, oh my gosh, like I, advocated for myself and I got like a referral to a specialist that really helped me or something like that. So, but I would just say that we really focus on a balance. I focus on balancing the practical tips and ways to still live a good life, ways to thrive. That's the word I'm trying to embody here. But also part of thriving to me is saying, yeah, we do, we need to feel our feelings and process our feelings. And sometimes it's really frustrating and it's hard living with an autoimmune disease during a pandemic. It's just hard, and I don't want to sugarcoat that. So we do try to find that balance. Do you have to talk in a support group? Clearly, I'm a very talkative person, but, some people really enjoy the group who don't even attend the live meetings. They watch the replays or they participate. And we do have like a bonus is the Facebook group. It is a private Facebook group, but I know Facebook is problematic. Long-term, I want to take it off Facebook, but, and so some people, participate more in that, or they just come occasionally to the live meetings, or they'll, just watch the replays and feel like, again, that sense of like, okay, I'm not alone. And the meetings are recorded so that you can watch them if you're, out of town or if you're just not available, but you can speak off the record. So if you're concerned, you're talking about something that's a really sensitive topic for you, I can always pause the recording at any time. The other thing is, is this the best fit for everyone's needs? Again, I try to be really clear and honest. Like if your primary goal is to like heal or cure your condition, that's not what the it is designed to do, because, according to my understanding of current scientific research and everything, there is no, cure or method of physically healing your condition completely. I do think psychologically, depending on how you define the word heal, it can be a very healing process to be part of a group. It's very empowering. I think the word healing just means different things to different people, but I'm not saying that this is curing your condition, making it go away, but it can be, I'm very agnostic to treatment approaches, meaning if someone does acupuncture, that's great. If you do 100% max amount, like I'm on the maximum amount of methotrexate and biologic, that's what's working for me. Someone else, if they're doing a diet that's working for them, that's great. I'm really all for like whatever works. But I do think that your decisions should be made with the access to the best current like scientific evidence. So you can know if you're taking a risk, like I would say, taking fish oil is a very cheap thing to do that has some evidence. It's not like the strongest evidence, but it does have evidence for helping with joint pain. But if you're saying, oh, my doctor's telling me I need to go to acupuncture 5 days a week and pay out of pocket $150 each time, I'm going to think, that's a bigger cost and time investment without as much data behind it. So then that might be a harder one to say that's the right thing to do. So, but I'm like, each individual, anyway, sorry, I'm going on a soapbox, but each individual, should feel empowered to make the decisions that make the best sense for them. But that's just not the focus. The focus on the group is, this is what you have, like, this is it. We have to accept it, face it head on, and then still say that I can live a good life with this. And like, if a cure occurs, like I will be the first one to take whatever it is to cure it. Like that will be amazing. But the best part is that the stress management tools, the things that we learn in the inner world part, especially in January, like those are things that, and the helpful habits, healthy habits, those are all things that help your baseline health status, whether you have a rheumatic disease or not, so these are good things to learn, even if there is a cure. But also it's not a good fit. Room to Thrive isn't a good fit if you're in a state where you're like, you don't think that any changes to your mindset or your outlook on things, or, you know, daily living habits, daily living strategies is going to make a difference. So you're in a state where you believe that you're going to feel bad no matter what you do. And that is a place people can sometimes get stuck in. And I think in that case, individual therapy is probably a good idea that will help get you out of that. But this group, it works. It's not designed to take people from that standpoint it's designed to take people who are already open to these changes. Does that make sense? Like, how am I saying this? Like, I don't know how to convince somebody who doesn't believe, like, that's in that kind of extremely depressed state. That's not really a skill that I know how to facilitate someone out of. I think that's where you really need like a psychologist or counselor or something. Or if you just don't like groups, this is a group. So, you know, if you want to get one-on-one support, this is a group. So this might not be good for you. But it is a good fit if you have a rheumatic disease, or actually the last group, we had quite a few that had similar diseases that aren't necessarily rheumatic diseases, like Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Someone else, a few had Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, migraines, fibromyalgia, just undifferentiated mixed connective tissue disease, chronic pain without known cause. A lot of these tools are helpful for those, but it is the data that I'm referring to is the data from these rheumatic diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, psoriatic, and ankylosing spondylitis. And you want to learn how to manage things better, want to connect to others who get it, feel more supported in a community. So, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I laugh at myself, but I am doing a flash sale actually. So I did create this course a couple of years ago it's like a self-paced course that covers some of the same material as Rheum to Thrive, but it covers a little bit smaller amount of material as Rheum to Thrive. But it is actually free if you join Rheum to Thrive by September 30th, which is, according to my records, tomorrow. So that's just a fun promotion. I do that sometimes just when it's like been a little bit, the registrations have been a little bit lower this time. Sometimes I just do that as like an incentive. But the link to sign up is this link. I will put it in the chat too, but I will also give you a chance. Okay. I always feel like, oh my gosh, why do I have so many slides? But I'm always like, oh, I don't want to forget to say anything. But here's the link to actually sign up. But I also, now we have 20 minutes for any other questions or confusions. Did I answer everything? Yeah, Julie?
Yeah. So I was wondering how many people are in the group?
Yeah. So like right now, as of like literally now, there's like 7 in each group, like 7 in the Thursday and 7 in the Friday, which is awesome. This time before, like the one that was like April, we had like 20 and 15. So I think that about half to 3/4 of the people end up showing up like on any given meeting, usually just because of random, life schedule, sickness. And so I do think I like to try to get them up to like 15 at least, just so that we have a nice, 8-ish people, 8 to 10, 11, because that's just it's still intimate, but it's not so small that people feel kind of like on the spot, if that makes sense. I mean, I guess right now there's 5 of us and I don't feel bad about that. I feel good about that. So I'm happy if it stays on the smaller side, but yeah, if it gets too big, then I will add like a 3rd group or like cap it. I haven't had to like cap the groups yet. So I'm kind of, I need to have like a formal number. Kind of in my head, it's been like 30 would be too many, but probably even like 25 might be maybe the number. So we'll see. Sorry. That's as far as I got right so far. I think like my goal was like 15 to 20 per group. Again, just because there is some attrition. There's people who there was somebody who, they have to move with my spouse lost their job or something, there's always 1 or 2 that end up, having to go, but yeah. Oh, and one of the other questions people often ask along with that is like the age range. So it is different a little bit each time. Like a couple of times it's skewed younger. couple times it's skewed older, but it is open to anyone who's an adult. So it's not for kids or teens. But in the vast majority, I would say over the last couple of years have been in the 30s to 50s age range, but quite a few in the 20s, a few in the 60s as well. Not too many in like the 70s, but it's open to truly anyone. And I actually really like having mixed generations because, especially when we start talking about relationships and stuff, somebody who's like 25 or 26 or like might be saying, oh, well, my boyfriend said this. And then like those who are like kind of older would be like, no, you don't need to take that. You know what I mean? Like, so kind of use the wisdom, and sometimes the younger people kind of bring like a youthful energy. That's fun. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. So that's answers those. You asked one question, but I answered two questions, but yeah. The other one is like how long people, sometimes they ask like, well, if I just got diagnosed, is it too early? Or if I've had it for 15 years, is that too late? Like, am I still going to learn anything? I think my experience has been that most people have not been given a lot of this information. So I think even if it's for sure that if you've had it for 15 years, you've learned a lot, like you've learned a ton on your own. But I do think that there's a value in, reviewing everything, and the feedback I've actually gotten, interestingly, some of the testimonials that are from people who've had it for like 10 years or longer, they're actually the strongest testimonials because they're people who say like, they wish they had this information sooner. Again, it's not a secret. It's just, it takes time to look at each one of these factors that helps you thrive, with rheumatic disease. We have to look at we look at pain, we look at fatigue, look at your lifestyle, habits like sleep, exercise, nutrition, but also look at the relationships. How can we explain this? Like, how do we develop an elevator speech? If you've heard of that, it's like an elevator pitch, it's like on Shark Tank, where you like explain to them in 30 seconds what you have, it just takes time. It's a lot of information. So anyway, yeah, that's another question that comes up a lot is like, is this only for beginners? Is this only for people who've had it a long time? But again, of the groups, I really like having a mix because the people who've had it for 10 years or longer are able to be like, oh yeah, I tried that, but that didn't work. I tried this and it did work, but the younger people sometimes have access to like newer information or, it's just, we all help each other. That's part of it being a group. Oops. Sorry. I just exited away from my Zoom. There we go. Now I'm back. Any other questions about the group or about anything else? Kind of an open book. Oh, someone's here. Someone new is here.
I was just gonna ask.
Hi, Kelsey. Yeah.
Hey, so I feel like you kind of already answered it, but like if you're busy like 1 week or you can't attend 1 week, so you can just like watch the recording.
Yes. You can watch, everything's recorded and then it's uploaded everything's hosted on this website called Thinkific, which is just like a course platform website. So a lot of times people will watch the video. Other times people are like, I'm okay. I'll just kind of participate next week. It's not for like college credit or anything. So you don't have to like prove that, you watched it or something. Yeah. But yeah, it's all, and it's available. Another question people ask sometimes is like, Samantha, better late than never. Welcome, Samantha. Yeah. Sometimes people ask like, oh, how long do I have access to like the recordings? And I just say as a general rule, I give everyone access for like 6 months after the program's over. And that's just advice that somebody gave me who runs programs too, because she said, oh, I used to always give everyone like lifetime access, but then I realized that like, I don't know, like everything's on Thinkific, but what if Thinkific like shuts down or like, their website gets attacked, like you can't guarantee lifetime access or like the internet, you just don't know. So I was like, oh, that's a good point. So yeah. But hi, Samantha. So I had a little presentation thing with all the details, but it's okay because I'm going to send a recording and a PDF handout. But if you have any questions about like Rheum to Thrive or anything about life, I'm like, oh, it was an open book. I'll talk about whatever because we have 13 more minutes. So yeah. You're welcome to. Oh, and people they don't have to have, one thing people ask is, do I have to have like my video on, during a meeting? Well, the meetings are all on Zoom. But no, you don't have to have your video on. People will sometimes be laying down, they'll have their pets with them, their kids are interrupting them, or they're making dinner. That's fine too. Again, it's just meant for, it's meant for, to be a source of support and information. And we're all trying to, live lives here. So it's fine to get interrupted or come in and out, like one of the people is like, oh, my son has like baseball practice, so I got to like come for the beginning, and then I like have to leave and take him to the practice and then come back on, so that's always fine. Yeah, Nora.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I'm happy and excited to join. I live in Mexico.
Okay.
And I first came across Cheryl through her blog, like maybe 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Because I was looking for comfortable shoes because I could literally not walk at all. And my husband was going to Vegas for like a business trip. And I was like, oh, I'm going with him to the United States. I'm going to look for shoes for arthritis.
Oh my
and
gosh.
I came across your blog and I felt such a huge relief because I found, like a ray of sunshine with you.
Oh.
Like, all like this happiness, but like you had like a list of music. When you had like a music for the days when you're feeling sad and down and low, and then music for your good days. And I was like, okay, so she knows, what this is about. You have lows, know, and bad days, and you can have good days too. And then, I would read your blog that you were dancing and everything. And I was like, okay, so I'm hopeful. But now with social media and everything, you're like closer, and for me, you're like my rock star.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you.
I have been waiting to join, and I'm really excited. And, I have 2 girls, and somehow I forgot about your blog. And then I was looking for baby stuff when I had my second girl. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember her, but what was the name of the blog, for many nights, sleepless nights. And I was like, yeah. And then I found like all this practical and amazing ideas about baby stuff. And I was like, well, yeah, the onesies, the clothing.
Yeah.
Do not buy the snaps. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's why my fingers hurt so much.
Yeah.
And friends and people would not realize that was like a huge issue for me, but of course it was, And after reading everything, you wrote, and, I was like, okay, yes, zippers, that's like the huge thing. So I'm really happy, and I'm thankful for everything you do, and I can't wait to join, really.
Oh, thank you. It's so great. And I'm so glad to hear that, because I have this tendency to like, make things and then kind of forget that I made them. So that blog, I mean, I do remember that I made the enthusiastic. So it's my blog was called The Enthusiastic Life. And it was funny because I did make it before my disease got the worst it had been. It got the worst it had been. And the kind of few years after my son was born, not to scare anyone who wants to have kids. Plenty of people have kids with rheumatic disease and do well. But I kind of got hit with a whole bunch of things in a row, like not just my rheumatoid arthritis flare up, but I also got in a car accident and some other things. And I remember at one point looking at my blog and thinking like, I don't feel enthusiastic anymore. Like, it was so sad. I was like, I don't even want to like have this. I'm so sad looking at this. So it's such an interesting psychological experience, right? To be like jealous of like your own former self, but anyway, point being, but that I got back to a newer, a new baseline that was more similar to my old one. But point being about your story, I'm glad that I had some blog posts about, my life hacks and stuff. And then I started a subdomain, which is arthritis.theenthusiasticlife.com, which is like the current website, just in case anyone's confused. It's like one of the members actually who joined before, she goes, where do I just like find all of your stuff? I was like, I don't know. If you find it all, tell me, and I'll put it somewhere. Yeah. But thank you. I'm really glad that you're
Thank you.
gonna join. And
I'm
yeah.
always learning with you and, you know, admiring you. And yeah,
Oh my gosh, you're too
I'm
sweet.
really happy.
I'm so glad this is being recorded. Yay.
Yeah, I'm really happy to join, and I can't wait. And I've had this for 15 years, you know,
Okay.
with 2 children, with ups and downs and really, really lows.
Yeah,
But,
yeah,
you know, always, you know, finding resources and hoping for the best.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
You know,
good.
my grandma used to say, you know, think of like a really old Mexican lady from many, many years ago and generations. And she would say, oh my God, my darling, please ask God, you know, very Catholic, to hold you in his hands and beg him not to clap.
Oh,
You know,
oh my
hold me in
gosh,
your hands and
that's
don't
so
clap.
cute.
Yeah. So, you know,
That
always
is
hoping for the
so
best, but I'm
cute.
always learning from you. And I'm really looking to be a part of something where I can, you know, listen to people. I was listening to Tiffany and Julia, and I was like, oh yeah, that's happened to me. Oh yeah, I can feel them, you know? So yeah, to be part of a group and to know that someone is living like, you know, similar things. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Oh
Thank
my
you.
gosh,
And
yeah.
thanks for everyone being patient with my English. I'm dusty and rusty.
No, it's very, I understood you perfectly. Yeah. Thank you. Oh, I'm so glad. And it really is. It's funny because I've been, you know, people who've taken the program and who are in the kind of the alumni group now, they're giving me compliments, but I'm always like, you know, the group, it's only as strong as the members in a group. Right. But, and it really has each time I think to myself, oh my gosh, this is such a special group, you know, like, oh, I hope the next one is as good as this group. And it has been. So I don't know. It's the power of social media or whatnot, how people have kind of found this resource, because I feel really lucky. So thank you.
Girls, let's join on Friday.
Yeah. Oh, you're so sweet. Yeah, I'll pay you your
Thank you.
$100 later now.
Thank you. I'll be quiet now for everyone else.
Oh
to
yeah,
speak,
no. And welcome back, Kate. You're able to come back. Yay. I know how that goes. I was just saying, she sent me a message saying she had to leave and come back, but I was saying that that's how the meetings go too, that like sometimes people have to go and come back, or, you know, oh, I'm going to mute myself, take myself off the video, you know, because I have to go like pick up my cat from the vet or do whatever, you know, and that's totally fine. Yeah. Any other questions or comments?
I have a question, and I'm going to just set it for everybody to answer. First of all, I really like you guys' gloves. I've only found one place that has those kind, and I've worn those to death, to where I've literally sewn them back together, and you know how hard that must have been. But so I'd like to eventually figure out where y'all are getting the gloves, because I've got my one pair. But what I wanted to know, and ask anybody, what kind of side effects, they're about to change our medication. Have you guys, anybody who's taken Humira, I was already on methotrexate. I was on Plaquenil first. I just want to know, what is Humira's side effects that people have experienced? I know what it says on the site, but I really just kind of want to know, what am I looking for? What am I up to? You know, so I can make a good choice.
That's the one TNF inhibitor I haven't been on, because once you fail on the tumor necrosis factor inhibitors, or TNFIs, are like that class of drugs that's consists of Enbrel, Remicade, and Humira. And if your body has failed on 2 of those, or the drugs failed you, as I like to say, then it's recommended to go on a different class of medications. So, but has anyone here taken Humira? Okay. Oh, Kelsey, do you want to share?
How was it?
Yeah, well, I actually took it for 10 years. So like I got diagnosed when I was 15. I'm 30 years old now. So I started it when I was like first diagnosed, and I was on methotrexate and Humira. I actually really didn't have many side effects at all from the Humira, to be honest. I probably had more side effects from the methotrexate.
Yeah, same here.
Like, I don't know, stomach upset and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I did really well on Humira. I know everyone has different experiences, but that was probably the best medication. Like for me, like I was really well controlled for 10 years on it. So, and I mean, I don't know, everyone's different, but I
Everyone is, yeah.
didn't feel like I had any side effects at all from it, to be honest. So,
Okay,
That's really
that's
good
good
to hear.
news. It's just because I know that on the website they need to say all of them, you know, because of
Yes.
they're required, and it has a black box warning and all that type of thing. So I know they have to do that, but I really just want to get an idea of what people experience.
I know. And I really wish that they would put on there like the percentage, because even one person has something, they have to say it. So I wish they would say the percentage. Like you can actually find it for methotrexate. It's like 40. Well, it's still confusing because there's always a range, but like 40-ish% of people have some sort of like stomach upset on it, which that's really, really high.
Yes.
Right. I don't have it. I have totally no side effects on methotrexate, which is really, really weird because any other med that has stomach side effects, I will get them. Like I will have an upset stomach. So I have some weird, I'm like, scientists should study me because I don't know what's going on. I think it's actually, anyway, there's some theories, but yeah, like what I found on the TNF inhibitors I was on was that each one made me a little bit more prone to a different kind of infection. And that's a pretty common, you know, they all carry that warning, you know, making you more prone to infections. But it was interesting because when I was on Enbrel, I got yeast infections and like bladder, I got more bladder infections than usual. But then when I was on Remicade, I got sinus infections. So it's just, I don't know, you know, again, I talked to my friend Mariah, she's been on Humira. She does the Mama's Facing Forward, which is a great like website. And it's for people with all sorts of chronic conditions. I'll just put that on there. But she said that she's noticed the same thing, that like that certain ones, it's like you might be more prone to like nasal sores or but yeah, nothing bad enough to like, I've never gotten pneumonia or like I never had to be hospitalized for an infection or anything, even despite being on biologics for 19 years, you know, but so that's why the warnings make it seem bad. And it's, you don't want to minimize, like, again, but there are plenty of people who are living good lives with these. So that's comforting, hopefully. It's one that's taken with pregnancy a lot because it's pretty safe for pregnancy, along with like Cimzia is another one, but that one is less likely to be authorized by insurance. So unfortunately, insurance rears its ugly head in these medical decisions and sometimes. Yeah.
Can I ask a super newbie question?
No, of course. If you can't ask it here, I don't know where you can ask it.
No, I know. Is itchy skin like a thing with RA? Like I looked up what does psoriatic arthritis look like, and it doesn't, my arm doesn't look like that. And it's like constantly itchy. And it started before I started with the medication. So
I wouldn't say it's something that's the norm. But I would say it would be more likely to be a side effect of medication, but not really the disease. Yeah.
Okay.
So
it might be something
unfortunately,
else.
I can say to my knowledge, it's not a normal symptom.
What about, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
Finish your thought. What about phantom smells? Is that like a normal RA symptom?
I've never heard that one until today, but you know, you might be on the forefront of something.
Ugh, I hope not.
I know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm always smelling cigarettes, like, and we don't smoke. Yeah, and I just have this smell of like somebody is smoking right in front of me.
Oh, that's fascinating. Has anyone else had that? I almost wonder if that's a post-COVID.
I know that's what it sounds like to me,
Yeah.
but I've never been diagnosed with COVID, and I haven't had symptoms of COVID. And so I don't know. Anyway, I'll talk to my doctor about it when I see him next.
But you know, I do encourage anyone, don't ever feel like it's a weird question or because you don't know until you ask, you know. I've had a couple of times where I said something super offhand in the appointment thinking, oh, this is so random, and they're like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, that's really important,
Yeah.
so you don't know, like,
Right.
and just because I don't know about it, it could be a rare thing, but that means something really significant. Like, oh, actually that cigarette smell only happens to people who have ankylosing spondylitis. So that's actually your diagnosis, that kind of, you just don't know.
Yeah.
So I would bring it up because that is something that's, if it's really specific, that's definitely unusual. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh
Thanks.
man, sorry. I wish I knew why. Mysterious. Anything else? Stacy, I see Stacy's iPhone is here. I'm sorry. We just kind of are wrapping up. I hope that the time zone didn't get mixed up, but I'm happy to answer any last questions anyone has about the Room to Thrive or anything else. My poor son. Oh, hi.
Hi. No, it was my fault, but
okay.
I just wanted to jump on because I wanted to find out, is this being recorded? So whatever I missed, I can just.
Yes.
Okay,
it's
great.
recorded. And I'm also going to send you a PDF of the little presentation slides that have a lot of information. I mean, some of it's the same information you could see on the website, but yeah, that will help. Yeah,
right,
no
thank
problem
you.
at all. Yeah, no problem. Yay.
I just want to say thank you. I know I missed a portion and I look forward to hopefully watching it very soon, but it's nice to hear. I just feel like no one understands, and it's nice to hear everyone using the same language and learning. Even the short time I was here, learning some new terms, and so that's exciting.
Yeah, I think, if you had told me a few years ago that, people could really form connections virtually, like in a live virtual meeting, I would have maybe been a tiny bit skeptical. I mean, I've always loved like interacting socially in any medium, but yeah, it's been really amazing. Having the live interaction to me is something that's really, special. And obviously I would love to like be in person with everyone, but that's not really practical even without the pandemic. So yeah, being able to just be in a virtual room with people with the same challenges, trials and tribulations, is pretty powerful, I think. So I'm glad you're here, and that even just this little information meeting has helped you feel a little bit less isolated. It's helped me, honestly. All this helps me too, because I still to this day will have these, I call them like automatic negative thoughts. I don't just call them that. That's what they're called in like cognitive behavior therapy, where these little thoughts, like there'll even be things like, you've had this for 19 years and you teach other people. Why can't you remember to do it? Things like those, and that inner critic in your head. And it's like, because we're all human beings. No one's perfect. We're just doing the best we can. So that's part of what we learn, is just how to kind of cope with our own mental roadblocks. But yeah, I'm going to have to wrap it up. You can tell I'm the kind of person who like can't like stop a conversation. I was like, okay, bye. But yeah, my poor son, we got yesterday, he had to get a what's it called? An expander, an orthodontic expander. And I did not realize it would be such a severe thing. And so he's adjusting. Today is better than yesterday, but I'm going to go make him a milkshake. Because he was like, I can't eat any of my favorite foods. I was like, oh, poor thing. So he'll be okay. He'll survive. But thank you all. And yeah, if you have any questions, I will be sending a follow-up email. So hope to see some of you in the group soon. Bye. Thanks for being here again. Bye. And stay safe. Anyone in Florida, please.